Hey, what up, y'all? It's your player partner, Cardo Mac, chilling here in Modesto, California today with a good friend of mine, former Darkroom Familia and Lowdown recording artist, A.L.G.
How you doing,
brother?
How you doing, bro?
Good.
Good to see you
How are you
again.
feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah, this interview is a long time coming.
Hey, man.
Been talking about it for a while. It's finally here. Could you tell us a little background about your history? Where'd you grow up? Where were you born and raised?
Yeah. I grew up in Le Grande, California, a little small town outside of Merced. I was born in Merced. Yeah, really not much to say about it. I mean, just a small town here in the valley, you know.
So being such a small town, what was your life like as an adolescent?
Boring.
Not much to get into?
Really, no. I mean, because there was not much to get into, we found stuff to get into, you know. That's what, got me into a lot of trouble growing up.
Were you into sports or anything as a youngster?
Nah, I didn't. I mean, I would, play football, things like that, but not during school. I never had the grades for it, man. So
I heard you were a skateboarder.
well, okay, yeah. If you consider that a sport, yeah, that's something I got into. You know, being that my name's Tony, Tony Hawk was one of my favorite skaters. Go figure. And I'm not gonna lie, I still love it today. Anything that has to do with skateboarding, I watch documentaries on it and stuff like that.
You still got a board?
And my daughter does. I buy her boards, and I think I can still ride. I try and show her little tricks here and there. But I'm a little heavier than what I was then.
So, what kind of stuff did you get into as a teen?
Positive or negative?
Whatever your life was like.
Drugs.
Really? At a young age?
At a very young age. Yeah, like I said, there was really nothing to do, and once drugs was introduced into my life, once it started coming around, I was very young when I started, smoking cigarettes, drinking, and then, smoking weed. And, it wasn't very long when cocaine and meth came into the picture, So, yeah, I was, shoot, man.
Is that because of the type of people that were around you, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's what was, I guess it hit the town, at that time, and just being the people that I would hang around with, being with the people I would hang around with, it was there. I was always one of the youngest guys at these parties. I remember being in elementary school and hanging out with high schoolers, man. So it was always around me.
What time period was this, in the 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, early 90s. Or no, I don't know about early 90s, but somewhere in the 90s. My memory's kind of foggy due to all that, man, but it was around that time period,
So what type of musical influences did you have back then?
Okay, when I was young, okay, first of all, let me say this. Just because I did a rap doesn't mean I loved rap. I grew up with Creedence, Clearwater Revival. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but they're very popular. You always hear them on all kinds of movies. They got songs like Proud Mary, Heard It Through the Grapevine, things like that, Have you ever seen The Rain? John Fogerty's the lead singer. But anyways, I was into that because I listened to my mom's records all the time. So, from them.
That's more as a kid than when you listen to that.
Yeah. Okay, well, as a kid, yeah, that's what I was into. But that, as I grew older and got into making my own music, it was, I took a lot of that, a lot of classic rock, and converted a lot of stuff into rap, I mean, I was into heavy metal a lot too. A lot of people didn't know that. I think only one guy from Darkroom knew, well, from the group I was in, knew that I was into heavy metal, dub. That's what me and him clicked, because he was into heavy metal, and he tripped out, and he was all like, man, you like Metallica? And
he didn't know you knew about that.
Nah, he didn't know. Being Mexicano or Chicano, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess to him it was a surprise, to know that part of me, that I love that kind of music. I used to play that music. I was a drummer. I grew up a drummer. So, before I was even in a band or anything, I play drums.
That's one thing I was going to bring up later. Of the thing I was going to ask you is something that your fans might not know about you, and that was going to be one of the things I was going to bring up. I think the first day I met you, you started getting down playing some cumbias.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, I love all types of music, you know. But as far as rap goes, man, I would say Too Short, the Ghetto Boys, Eazy-E. When Easy Does It came out, or what was it, Easy Does It? I think that was his album, or We Want Easy or something. Yeah. His first solo, I guess, that came after NWA. That was the first album I heard, the first tape I heard. So, I mean, that was, you know, I learned that whole tape front and back, you know. So, yeah, those were the first ones. But and then when I got into, like, when I knew that there was Chicanos doing it, you know, that's how I was like, oh, okay, so...
That was my next question. What made you want to actually start making music that made you think that you could do it?
It wasn't so much that I thought I can do it at the time when I first heard Chicano rappers or artists. It was more like I was just like surprised and like happy, I guess. Like, oh man, you know, this isn't just for one race. You know what I'm saying? Because at the time, all you would hear was, you know, the ones from here, Oakland. You know, like Short and all them. And then, of course, on the East Coast, you heard, you know, like the Wu-Tang and all them, right?
I think it's because it was more relatable?
Yeah. When I heard, shoot, man, the first ones I heard was Frost. You know, Lighter Shade of Brown, Latin Alliance, you know, Mellow Mayonnaise, AOT and all them. I mean, and then I got into, like, also listening to, I started ordering all the ones from Thump Records. What were they called, man? There was some young kids I remember. They had a song called Cowboys to Girls. I can't remember what they're called. But those guys, Rocky Padilla, all these artists that I would listen to, you know, and it was just, it caught me, man, quick, you know, because of the fact that they were Latino, you know. So Jay-Z, no, not Jay-Z, JV, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. JV, the female rapper from down there. Her too, a lot of them, man. I remember purchasing all their albums, you know, ordering them online at the time through mail or Lowrider magazine.
So did you start dabbling, like writing your own rhymes, or like what clicked in your head that made you want to think that you could do it?
I kind of always wrote poetry, you know, being in school and stuff, little rhymes here and there. But I never took it as far as like I'm going to try to write a song. It was more like I would rap the actual lyrics to the songs, to the instrumentals, because on the tapes they had, you know, they have the singles, right? So on the flip side they had the instrumental. So the first one I ever did was My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me from the Ghetto Boys. So
You recorded that one?
Yeah, not in the studio, in my grandma's room. She had a little tape player, and I had a little tape recorder. So I would put it next to it while the music's coming out of the speaker here. With the little microphone recorder, it would record the music and my voice at the same time. Then I got real technical and started using another tape so I would dub my voice. You know what I mean? Of course, it lost quality.
It's crazy that you noticed that, though, that people would dub their voices.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, at that time when I finally just, you know, said, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do something with this. I started, that's when I started, not so much writing, but I was getting to know my voice, like making a voice. Does that make sense? Like you know, exercising your voice, you know, because I mean that's one thing, bro. I can tell you this right now. You can have a lot of tight rappers out there. They have tight lyrics and have you know, a good flow or whatever, but their voice is what sets them apart. It's the voice that makes it unique. You know what I'm saying? Because you can have somebody with a good voice that becomes a household name, and you hear it from miles away, and you recognize that voice. They may not be the tightest lyrics, or they may not flip the fastest, but it's just something about that voice that catches your ear.
That's good you say that, because from what I noticed from you was the delivery in your voice.
Yeah.
The first time I heard you was on, I think, the Gang Stories soundtrack.
Okay.
And I think it was a song called From Lee Grant to Modesto.
Yeah.
And I was just hearing it on my way home. And I know you had stuff before that, but that's the first time that I heard you. And when I heard your voice, I was just like, who's that?
Yeah.
So when I pulled over and then I flipped over to see who was on there, it was like A.L.G.
Yeah.
A.L.G, who's that? So then I started researching you more, and I started looking for your music. But that's a good point, that the voice. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's what always caught my ear too. Is the voice of certain artists. They just got that certain thing that sets them apart, man. I mean, because like I said, you can hear. I mean, everybody's doing it. Everybody's from then and even now, people are rapping. But there's just something about when you hear, like, man, like what you said, because I'm a fan of. I got artists that are my favorites. You know what I'm saying? And when I heard them for the first time, I'm like, oh, that's sick right there. And it may not be the tightest flow, like I said, but it's just something about it that just catches your ear.
So when you finally decided that you actually did want to record, what came first? Because I know you're a part of Lowdown and Darkroom, and you had some solo stuff.
Lowdown came first.
How did you meet them? Or who was the first one you met?
Mickey D. Mickey D was the first one I met. Yeah, I'll never forget. See, because once I started, so I got to tell you this before I get into that. Once I started doing all that, trying to find my voice or what have you, and still I wasn't writing my own lyrics yet. But I remember being at my grandma's house. At the window, I had this guitar amplifier that I used to use for my microphone. Once I started figuring out the technical stuff, on how to just rap live or whatever, right? So I would be rapping to instrumentals. And one day, these kids were walking by, and I just seen them. They were just chilling at the inn, just listening to me or whatever they were doing, chilling, right? And they waited there. I ended up going outside, and I ended up finding out that one of the guys, it was actually Mickey D's cousin. So because of him, I got Mickey D's number, got a hold of him. Through Mickey D, I met Never. We went over to Never's apartment at the time, and his little beat machine. I remember I paid $50 for this beat that he made me, man. It was, it was cool, Hey, man, but I was a fan of these guys already because I already knew who they were. I knew who they were.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
For those that don't know who Lowdown is, like, what made you want to go directly to them? Those that aren't familiar with Merced and 209 and all that.
Oh, man. So, okay. So I got to go back. Okay. So, again, one thing I left out was that before I even got started into wanting to rap too, right before that, I was trying to DJ a little bit. And it wasn't like I was DJing for parties and stuff. It was just more like I used to like to mix, because I remember right there in LeGrand, there was this, there was actually a recording studio in this town, man, in LeGrand that nobody knew about, but these guys were actually DJs, people would hire them to do parties, right?
They're the ones that had the studio?
They had the recording studio. And to be totally honest, they really didn't know how to record, but they had the stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted them to actually make me a beat of my own, even though it was a sample of White Horse. I've always wanted to do that song. And so he looped it, he sampled it, and I think that's when I first started trying to write, was to that. There was supposedly a beat first for me. But I got so intrigued, I guess, in the DJing thing. The process. Like, I was just tripping out on, like, dude, this is dope, So I started wanting to know how to mix. So, of course, I mixed the easiest kind of music that could be mixed is freestyle, because all the beats are the same, same tempo. So I started doing that, making tapes. But then I did start recording there eventually. It didn't sound good at all. Did not sound good, And see, all these memories are coming back to me now, bro. Excuse me if I kind of go back and forth.
Can go back. We got time.
Okay. Excuse me if I go back and forth. But to really say where I got started in rapping, where I really wanted to make this, I don't know if I want to say a career, but to make something of it, was in another small town called Patterson in California. I kind of, you could say I grew up there too. I grew up in the campo right there by Felipe Garza Park, right there with my tío, rest in peace, and my tía, who I need to go visit soon. And so I have a lot of family in Patterson. And I remember the campo, there was this DJ. And I was always hearing music coming out of this house, and I was like, man, I need to go over there and introduce myself. And I did. Long story short, I went over there and I started rapping on instrumentals that he had, which were, stuff from Lighter Shade of Brown, Sunday Afternoon, things like that. you know.
Like recorded, or you're just going live?
He had the instrumentals, and no, not record. I would just go live right there, and then we started like kind of drawing a crowd. Man, all these little kids started coming, bro, and that's one thing I can say I did have was like what you said. The was it the energy or the delivery? The delivery.
It draws people in.
Yeah, it started drawing the people in, and it was then when I started saying, "Man, I could probably do something with this, man. You know, I'm gonna, you know." I'm gonna see what I can do with this.
You remember what you were rapping about at that time?
No clue. I mean, like I said, they were just instrumentals. I mean, I had the instrumental to like Thuggish Ruggish Bone and things like that. You know, I was just trying to do all kinds of different stuff, you know. But again, just trying to find my voice, you know. Now, to answer that question, how I heard about Lowdown, I kind of had just knew about Lowdown because people would mention them, but I had never really heard their music yet. But the ones I heard about first was this group from Merced called Felony, and actually Sam, who went by Sandman at the time, is actually my cousin now, you know, and through marriage, and but him and Mad D, I heard they had a cassette. It was a single. And their album was actually called Trust No Man. So I heard of them, and then there was this compilation that came out called 209's Most Vicious. They came out back in the day. They had like Young Drew, Chaos the Assassin, Mr. Grinch, I think was one of the tightest songs on there too. And I don't know if Lowdown was on there. I can't remember, but somewhere along that line, I ended up coming across Lowdown.
So there's already a good little handful of established
local
artists. Huh?
Oh, yeah. There was already people doing it out there in Merced, man, way before I did, you know. So
especially at that time, because now everybody does it, but at that time, it was a lot different.
Yeah, it was a lot different. Oh, man, one that I can't forget to mention, too, was Little Man from Merced. He was one of the first ones I remember, too. They had a group called THC, and he's a real good friend, man, you know, and I don't know if he's still doing music today, really, but he was one of the first ones that I heard about, you know. I mean, I'm telling you, bro, when I met these guys, bro, for the first time, I was starstruck. And, you know, these are dudes from the hood, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, just your everyday Joe, you know what I'm saying? Just there. But when I met them, I sat down with them, whether I smoke a joint with them or whatever it was, I would be all scared to talk, bro, because I was a fan of these guys, you know. Same thing when I met Mickey D and Never. You know, like I was all quiet, bro. You know what I'm saying? Never always tried to break me out of my shell, but he really never could. You know, I was always like, because I always seen him as, you know, this is a CEO, man. This is
boss man right there.
The boss man right here, bro. You know, but that's how I met them. You know, I met them. You know, I got that first beat. And I went back a second time, got another beat from him. So I spent $100 on Lowdown, man. You know, when I first got my production from them. I could say the first one was better than the second one, though. The first one was like, we did it real fast, and, you know.
How was your chemistry with them when, or was it just business? You would just buy the beats and you would take off?
Yeah, kind of at first, yeah, it was. And then I got a phone call. We kind of still kept in touch, you know. There must have been something about me that they liked that never reached out to me, and through him is how I met Sir Dino, you know, how I met David. And I remember they took me up to Tracy, and I met David for that. I had already, man, I got to keep going back because I can't talk about all these guys and how I met them until I tell you how I first heard about From the Body with Love, okay? I was actually in Patterson, and it's a trip how this happened, bro. I don't think I ever shared this story with a lot of people, really. But there was a time when I was in Patterson, bro, and I found a cassette. I found this cassette, and it was From the Body with Love.
You just came across it, or somebody showed it to you?
Came across it. Like I found it, bro, like on the street curb. I found this tape, and it worked. And I recognized, I seen that it was Old English lettering. And I was like, what? That's dope, man. You know, it's From the Body with Love. And I started looking at some of the songs, New Revolution, Midnight Creep. I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. You know, I started listening to it. wow. So I had no faces to none of these voices or names or nothing, right? Here's the trippy part. This was in Patterson. In Lee Grande, in my own hometown, one of my primos actually had the cassette. He didn't have the cassette. He had the cover with no tape.
That's crazy.
So how does that work? You know, so I started like looking at it like, oh, and I started putting, this is Sir Dino, this is also, this is, you know. So I was like, okay, this is dope. So I started, you know, figuring out. Now, this right here, bro, is what really set it off for me right here. I seen BoYo Loco. Bro, I became a instant fan. I seen that at the time, I guess the song he had on there, I don't remember the name of the song, but he was doing time in Solano. And it was a phone recording. And I was like, dude, this is dope. This is dope, you know? And dude, and then I seen that he was originally from Merced. And I was like, what? Okay.
You hadn't heard of him. That was the first time you heard
That was the first time I heard of him. I hadn't heard, I mean, I had already heard, like I said, of all these other guys in Merced, but I hadn't heard of him yet.
That would trip out too. On the inside of that CD, it showed the picture and where they were from.
Where they were from, yeah. You know, so don't forget this was a tape though. This was a cassette. So it at the time it didn't have Lowdown on there yet. So I still didn't really know about Lowdown, but I knew about BoYo first. So that really right there, bro, is what set it off for me, man. Was BoYo Loco. Because when I seen that he was from Merced, I was like, dude, if somebody from Merced can get on tape, I could probably do it too.
And the way he got down too, the delivery and
bro,
the way he said things, you know.
Dude, I mean, we'll talk about more about that later. But man, I mean, because yeah, I'll bring that up again later. But him, you know, and then once the CD came out, you know, and they had his picture, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I did have his picture on there still.
I didn't get a hold of it till 1999, I think, and it was a CD. So you know, you got it way before me.
Yeah, because it was a whole different cover too. It had the dude with the machete on it. You know what I'm saying? It was the original cover before they put the bullet on there. Yeah, and then so the CD came out. That's when I seen Lowdown's picture, and then I seen the BoYo was part of Lowdown. You know, and I was like, oh, that's dope. You know, this and that. So when I came into Lowdown, BoYo was already gone. You know what I'm saying? So I never got the chance to do anything with them.
Yeah.
To work with them.
Did you meet him at least?
Nah, man. I never had the chance to meet him. You know, and that's what was. I was mad about that. To be honest, I was pretty upset, bro. I was like, man, like that's the reason why I wanted to be part of Darkroom. You know what I'm saying? And I never got the chance to meet him. You know. But he was a big part. You know, big influence on my rap career, you know, if you want to call it a career, you know.
So it was Lowdown first, and then Darkroom. They introduced Dino.
Yeah. So I think I want to say I met Little Wino before I even met Sir Dino, you know, and then other people in Lowdown like Big Vic. I don't know if you ever met Big Vic.
I haven't met him.
A good friend of mine too, Victor. I met Big Wino. You know, all these cats, bro. Crack a Mac, you know, all these guys, bro. C-Man, I remember meeting C-Man first. Now, one thing you gotta understand though, is that not every Lowdown member was actually a rapper. You know, we had so many members, man. That's why the last album I think that I was a part of was the Dirty Dozen. I mean, there was a bunch of us, you know, and but I became a member of that group before becoming a member of Darkroom.
That's a fact people might not know, that just because, you know, you weren't a rapper didn't mean you were part of the crew.
That's true. That's fact, bro, because we had a lot of people in our crew, man. I mean, that's when Minority, you know, you see Minority Militia. I don't want to jump ahead, but you see how many people were on that. You know what I mean? That was a lot of heads on there, you know. But going back to when I went to Tracy and met Dino, he was living on the north side at the time of Tracy, and I remember he was recording in the back room, and I did one song there. I didn't like it, you know. It wasn't a good song. It never got released, you know. But there was something about me, I guess, that he liked, that he told Never, hey, get a hold of this guy, tell him there's a song that I want him to get on with me and somebody else.
So he reached out to you.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would have been the other way, that you knew who they were, so you were trying to get in the mix.
No, bro. Like in my heart, I wanted to be a part of them, and I might have shared it with Never and said I wanted to do, be a part of Darkroom, but I never like had the chance to tell Dino, hey, bro, jump me in, or like let me be a part of you guys. No, it was never like that. It was just I happened to go record it that day, and then later on, Never's the one that called me and said, Dino wants you to jump on a song for this album we're doing called Penitentiary Chances. So it was a song called In the Fog, and it was my first time.
That was the first song you recorded for Darkroom?
Yes, it was. It was the first song I recorded for Darkroom. It was me, David, and Drew on that one. Boy Andrew, man.
A lot of people asked me about that song too, how it came about.
At that time, when I recorded that song, that was the second time I met David. I had never met Andrew yet. I didn't meet him yet.
Everybody already had their verses.
Yeah.
You went in and laid down the last one.
Actually, the day that I was there to record it, I went with this friend of mine. Well, these two friends of mine went over there. We drove from Lee Grand to actually we recorded it on the outskirts of Patterson, right there off of Mitchell somewhere on West Main. There was just this house out there, man, and Eclipse was there. Eddie was there, and I think that was the first time I met Eddie that day. So it was the second time I met David. But I just laid my verse, bro. I don't even know if I dubbed it. I might have dubbed it. Just ran through it like once or twice, and I was gone.
You had no idea it was going to be one of the more popular songs on that soundtrack?
No clue. And
they were working on a movie, or you didn't know?
No clue, man.
No,
I had no clue. Like, dude, that was the beginning of something that I had no clue of what was going to come out of it. I was just doing it for fun, bro. I mean, there was no signed contracts, not even like on a handshake, nothing. Everything was just like, hey, you want to drop a verse? Like, heck yeah, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, it was a trip, bro, for me. I was young. I was only like 16, 17 years old.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I was young. I was really young.
Yeah. That was actually the second time that I heard you. Because I would buy the music in Fresno and then head my hometown's Fireball, so I would drive down to Fireball, and it was always in the same road where I was hearing your music. And I think it was the same spot where you came out to on the first time that I heard it. It was just coincidence. So you pretty much started doing features for Darkroom, right?
Yeah. When they had called me to do In the Fog, after that, they called me for another project that came out for a song called Killers. I got on that one. And what's funny though is that one, even though it was recorded sometime after, came out before the first one I recorded, In the Fog. Like, I was anticipating In the Fog, bro, because they were promoting the heck out of it. And this is when I started finding out that it was a movie and a soundtrack. I wasn't in the movie, thank God, but but I was, I think, on the videos that they had on there. I think I was wearing my Niner jersey and stuff. Handful.
So when they would call you, you would just go and do the feature, and you weren't going to know which project it ended up, pretty much?
Not really, man. I was just happy to get on stuff, to be honest. Maybe they did bring it up, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't care. I was just like, I'm going to get on the song with these guys. I was happy, And then other projects came along, too, after that. After... I think the Lowdown album we started doing. So that's when I got featured on a lot more stuff. It was a Valley of Death, I think it was. I got on there maybe 3 or 4 times. I don't know.
When you became an actual a member of Lowdown?
Yeah.
For that album?
Yeah. I don't think I got the tattoo yet. I ended up getting
tattoo later.
Yeah. But so we recorded for the Valley of Death album. And then from there, other stuff came. Like, I think David Solo, I got on his, man, what's it called, man? I have a bad memory, bro, to be honest with you.
Chronicles?
Chronicles, yeah, that one, Chicano Chronicles. I maybe got on there like 3 or 4 times, maybe. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Don't check it later and be like, Gang Stories, I think I got on there a couple of times. Yeah, so I mean, once I got once a certain amount of time, bro, like I started losing track of what was coming next, what came out next, you know, like we were just recording so much, you know. I mean, we were putting out albums it seemed like every week, man. Like it was crazy, you know. And honestly, I don't even know if Gang Stories came on after my solo and things like that. I know if you want to talk about that a little bit, my solo I did on the transition from 99 2000, or we might have recorded in 99 and it came out 2000.
Remember what the name of your first album was?
The Right to Remain Violent. Yeah.
And me as a fan, I was anticipating your solo album. When I would hear you as features, I was like, oh, I can't wait till this guy drops his solo.
Wow. Thank you.
I would check. I was always at Sam's Goody, Tower Records. Every Tuesday, that's when the new releases would come out. And every Tuesday, I was there checking for whoever I was looking for. And I looked for a long time for your solo album.
Wow. You know, honestly, so did I. I would go to the stores too. Not to sound vain or nothing, bro, but I mean, I used, you know, I was young, bro. I would go to Sam Goody's warehouse. Is that what it's called? Warehouse? Warehouse. Tower, all those places that were back in the day, throwback. Just to go see, you know, if they were there yet, you know what I'm saying? And they did, back then, they did have displays of, I remember the penitentiary chances. They had a huge display on that, bro. You know, this is before they, you know, started legal, making it illegal, you know, to have gangster rap, and, you know, and then before they closed down the stores, you know, because they would pull a lot of our stuff down, you know. Eventually they started pulling our stuff down. I
thought it was only the GUN that they were pulling down. They pulled out other stuff too?
When they started figuring out that it was associated with it, same people, they made it an issue here in the local Sam Goodies and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that one was the one that was, you know.
So how did your first solo album come about? Were you and Dino talking about it, or you brought it up to their attention? Hey, I want to put out my solo.
I think Dino had approached me about it. He said, you should do a solo. And I was like, okay. Simple as that. Like, okay. You know, and I remember I was, practically living in Tracy, man, because I was always over there. You know, there was times I'd stay at his house. There was times that he'd put me in, give me a room there at a motel, you know, and I was always in Tracy, bro. Or if not, I was staying in Patterson at my prima's house. You know, because Patterson and Tracy are so close, you know. I think you just get on the 5 and you're right there, you know what I mean? Or 33, you know, and so yeah, I was always over there, you know. And when you approached me with the solo, I think it was going to get signed with Dog Day. I don't know if it came out with Dog Day. I think
it did.
Did it?
We got it right there.
You probably know more about it than I do, bro. Does it have the label on there? It wasn't Dog Day. You know what? Oh, that's what happened. See, it all comes back to me. I remember now that I had talked to the guy from Dog Day. I don't remember his name. But I had gave him my info because they were going to release that on Dog Day. And that's when some stuff had happened with the label. So that's when Darkroom backed away from Dog Day. And they ended up, I think this was probably maybe, if not the first one of the first ones that they released independently, you know,
so without the backing. I always thought Darkroom was 100% independent, but
no.
Dog Day was helping with the distribution, or what's going on with them? Yeah,
we had distribution. I want to say, if I know my Darkroom history before I was a part of it, Sunset Records or Explicit Entertainment was in Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, I remember Dino mentioned it.
Yeah, Explicit Entertainment. And then Dog Day came along, I think, afterwards. But Dog Day they're the ones that put out Penitentiary Chances and Veteranos, I think. Yeah, so I think my solo came after that. Because when did Veteranos come out? Do you remember?
98, 99 maybe?
Okay, so now mine came out in 99, 2000, so it was after that. So it was because of those features, I guess, that I did, where David said, you know, well, I guess he saw that I had potential to actually do an album. you know. So
Did you give it your all for your solo album, or you were just doing what you do?
I just did what I did, bro. To be honest, I mean,
Were you happy with your first solo album?
some of the songs, there was songs that I wish I wouldn't have put on there. You know what I mean? One in particular, you know, I don't know the name of it, I can't remember, but it was all like, dang, I can't believe I recorded this song. What the heck was I thinking? You know, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, bro. There's a lot of stuff, and I was, like I said, I was young. You know, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, and I'm sure I'm not the only artist that feels this way. I'm sure there's others. I'm sure there's stuff that we wish we would have done different. You know, doing.
How old were you when you did your first solo? Do you remember?
Man, probably 20, maybe 19, 20, maybe 20. I don't know, bro. It was all a dream, you know. It's crazy.
I remember I always thought you were a lot older than you looked back then.
It was the drugs, bro. It was the drugs. Yeah, most of the time, bro. And this is. I know I don't want to jump ahead, but this is something that a lot of people don't know about. I would have been on a lot more stuff. I would have been on a lot more features, a lot more movies, things like that, if I wasn't on drugs. I missed a lot of stuff. I probably would have ended up being in Texas with them when they did that Revolution song out there with SPM and those guys. I probably would have been there. But things happen for a reason. You know?
Like, as a fan, I thought you're the one that had the most potential from the whole group.
Wow, thank you, man. Let me shake your hand. Man, but you know what was crazy, bro?
I wanted to see you on more stuff, but it was kind of limited what you were on.
You know, and we'll get into that a little later about the drug use and stuff. But like, a lot of people told me that. You're not the first one that said that, bro. People used to tell me like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you got talent. Like, I'm gonna be totally honest with you, because I was doing gangster rap. I mean, it was a lifestyle I was living, you know. I mean, that's what I was around, you know. You're going to rap about what you do, what you see, you know, the way you live, poverty, things like that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would rap about. Everything I rapped was real. Nothing was fake about it, you know what I'm saying? You can hear it in my lyrics, you know what I mean? A lot of times, like, these guys that knew me, either from... that weren't involved in gangs, and people that I would meet, they would always tell me, bro, why are you doing gangster rap, bro? There's something about you that's different. They basically were saying that I was just wasting my talent, you know? They would always tell me, you got that voice, bro. Like, why don't you do radio jams? Like, okay, live your life, do what you do, you know? If you're going to be in the streets and doing all that stuff, do it. But you want to make money, you know, why don't you basically do mainstream rap? You know, they were telling me, you know, and stuff like that. I was like, nah, you know what you're talking about. So I still kind of had myself on a, you know, I didn't think of myself ever making anything big out of this.
So I know you mentioned Thump Records earlier. Like, I would have seen you, like, on that type of platform, like doing car shows and stuff, like, all over the United States.
You know, Thump Records was actually I actually reached out to them one time to, what is it, Albert Lopez? Is that his name? Alberto?
I don't know if did he own it at the time? I know Bill Walker owned. I don't know if he still owns it now.
And then, but I reached out to the other guy because, you know, he had the Mexicano name. You know what I mean? So I kind of I sent the letter to him. Never got a response, you know. But then again, I wasn't really doing nothing, you know, major or nothing, you know. Not even.
You sent him your demos, or you just sent him a letter?
I sent him a letter, you know, about how to...
Demo would have worked better.
Probably, you know. But I just, I was a fan of their stuff too, you know. And, but that was always, going back to Thump Records, that was always something that caught my attention. So if it wasn't Thump, then, you know, Darkroom was the other one. And I was like, you know, but... and
this one was more at hand's reach.
Not just that, but Darkroom, I related to it a lot more because it was a lifestyle I was living. You know, it was growing up in the barrio, the ghetto. That's what I was around of, you know, the drugs, you know, money, alcohol, all that stuff that comes along with that lifestyle. That's what I was talking about. So, like, to me, Thump Records, it was more like...
Watered down?
Yeah. I don't want to say cheesy, but I think I just did. It was just more like kind of like upbeat, like come on, man, like get the party started, kind of stuff, And I liked it. Don't get me wrong, but
you weren't living that life.
I wasn't really living that life, bro. So I felt more comfortable talking about the stories that I would talk about,
It became more natural.
It came more natural. See, but at the time, Thump Records, to me, that's what it was all about. Later on, they started, I started hearing more artists that were just coming out, like really knowing what they were about. It wasn't more commercial. It wasn't commercial, you know what I mean? Like the lowrider scene. You know what I'm saying? So I started noticing more of other rappers that were in that area at the time. Yeah.
So your first album was The Right to Remain Violent, and then I think you put out 2 other solo albums afterwards?
Yeah, the second one I put out, or that we put out, was Till Death Do Us Apart. Man, if you look at those 2 covers, you could see where I was headed already. One was real colorful. It was bright. It was like, dude, like, okay. It was eye-catching. The other one was dark. The other one, I got deeper into drugs. A lot of the stuff I wrote was just talking. It was exalting more of that.
You wanted. You wanted that cover like that on both of them.
Yeah, I remember the day I see some things I do remember, and I remember the day I took that picture. David took that picture. I just told him, I said, "Look, bro," I go, "turn off the lights. It's like this candle right here. We're at a kitchen table. Light this candle right here, and just take a picture of me like this." He was just with the light of the candle, with the fire. And then I think I had a cross that was hanging at the time. And I saw it, and I was like, dude, this is it. That's the album cover. Just put A.L.G right there, Till Death Do Us Part. Let's call it a cover. That's what it was. But the music, man, to be honest, man, like a lot of that album, if you listen to it, the quality wasn't that good, because the better quality songs were recorded in Darkroom. A lot of the other ones were recorded on this computer program in Le Grand at a buddy's house.
Not the original studio you were talking about that was in Le Grand?
No. This one was in he was a kid. He was a young kid's room. I was like, oh, you got a computer? Let's do an album. Dude, it was so, I don't want to say, it was a good setup, but we had sorry mics, dude. We took 2 karaoke mics and taped them together just to have 2 mics. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. To get a better sound, because it sucked, bro. It really did. The sound sucked on it. And again, going back to, sometimes there's things that I wish I wouldn't have done, things I wish I wouldn't have put out. It would have been better just to wait instead of being so anxious to hurry up and, let's get it done and put it out. Let's get it done and put it out.
What kind of response did you get from the second album?
I guess it was good. I mean, it wasn't as good because that album wasn't as popular, I guess, or known as the other one. It wasn't pushed out as much.
That one, I was never able to find it in stores.
You can actually, they did put it in stores for a little while, I think. Right now, I think you can just get a lot like on eBay and stuff like that. I think a friend of mine who lives in Nevada actually messaged me the other day and said, look what I got. And he sent me a picture through Messenger about he got it online from somebody somewhere on eBay or something. I seen one from Australia. The people out in the other countries that have them.
I've seen a lot of them out there in Australia.
China, Japan, Germany. They have these albums, man. And kid you not, bro. Like, I seen The Right to Remain Violent on Amazon for like $700.
That's crazy.
It is. I wouldn't buy it. That's just me. It's my own album. I wouldn't pay $700 for it. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, bro. I tripped out when I saw it. I guess it's got to be the physical copy, because I mean, I'm sure you can still get it like iTunes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But,
what about your third album? I think that was probably the hardest one to find.
Yeah. Okay, that one right there was not put out on Darkroom. This is when I already... Okay, well, check this out, man. Before I talk about that album, a lot of people don't know this, but my third solo was supposed to be what NKA is. You remember NKA?
Yeah.
Okay. At this time, I wanted to feature other people. So it was going to be my solo album, a third solo album, and just have features on it. but there were people that I wanted to put out, you know,
Because you saw the potential in them, or just like to help out the homies?
I mean, I guess I wanted to kind of do what David was doing, man, with everybody in the valley and in the Bay and stuff, man. You know, I kind of wanted to do
Your version of it.
Yeah. I mean, that was like getting their foot in, I guess, to get into the Darkroom studio, you know, and then eventually they branch off, you know what I'm saying, and do their albums, you know. I wanted like, oh man, Little Lokester. He was on NKA. I wanted him to do an album. I mean, he was raw, man. He was tight. You know, my boy Rude Dog. I don't know if he could have done a solo brand, but I wanted to get him out there. You know what I'm saying? Nightmare, Conflict, you know, all these guys, Mentiroso. You know what I'm saying? All these dudes, bro. That
You're the one that brought him to the table.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's not to, you know, pat myself on the back for it, bro, or nothing like that. But it's like I seen the potential in these guys, man. You know, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to say like anything they did was because of me. I'm not trying to get the glory for that. You know, I'm just saying like I wanted to help them though. You know, like I remember like Menti, man, when he first wanted to start rapping with Darkroom, I remember I let him borrow a bunch of CDs. I remember I was cleaning the rims to my car and he was walking by and I was like, hey man, he had hit me up and I go, oh, you know what? Take these CDs and listen to them, man. It was The Body with Love, Lowdown, all these.
You already knew him at the time, or?
Oh, man, I grew up with the guy, bro. I mean, I knew him since he was a little kid, bro. You know, we were from the same town. You know, I mean, he was a real good friend of mine, bro. If not like a brother to me, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I still love the guy, man. You know what I'm saying? And he grew up listening to this stuff too, you know, and he saw me the way I saw like Sir Dino and Never and all these guys, you know, but and then when I introduced him to David and everybody, Never and all them, you know, like he was starstruck with them too. You know, I took him over to meet MT over there in Tracy. He met Angel. What's Angel's Scarface? He went by Scarface, and DJ Shadow, which is I think goes by Jesus now. Jesse, his name's Jesse, right? So like all these dudes, man, Menti, I wanted to take him everywhere I went, bro. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get a chance to get on my first album, but we had did a song called Nuestra Vida or something like that for a Spanish album, and Menti was featured on that. And because David was already in the process of mixing and mastering my solo, I called him in time and I said, bro, please do me a favor and put that song on my album. I don't care where it's at, put it at the end, but I want my boy Menti to be on this CD, you know, because I wanted to get his foot in the door, you know, and he got on a lot of other stuff. He got featured on some other, what was it, I don't know. He got on some other stuff. And eventually I heard he ended up doing a solo album, you know, but we had lost contact, you know, and, but yeah, I mean, not only him, but, you know, like Nightmare and Conflict and all these guys, like I said, you know, Conflict was doing beats. He produced the majority of the beats on the NKA album. He did some for my solo as well. But yeah.
I thought I heard there was going to be a second NK album.
You know, man, I'll get into that a little later. I will remind me about that question, okay? But yeah, so NKA was going to be my third solo. But like I said, I decided to make it, let's do this instead. So my fourth solo was actually I See Therefore I Say. So by this time, because of drugs and the lifestyle I was living, and because I wasn't a part of all this stuff, I was basically having like my own little fallout, bro. Like I would go ghost. David would be blowing me up on my pager at the time. Didn't have a cell phone. We had pager, you know. And for those of you who don't know what a pager is, it's a little device that, okay, but he would always be blowing me up, bro, and I wouldn't call back. I would not call back. Duke, same thing. He would try and get a hold of me, you know, because David probably thought I was trying to ignore his calls or something. I don't know, you know. So he would try and call, and they couldn't get a hold of me. I'd be stuck.
Did they have an idea of what was going on?
I'm sure they did, man. I mean, these guys knew. they knew. I mean, I wasn't the only one they dealt with, you know, that was in this group that was strung out on stuff, you know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, man, we're human, bro. You know, life's reality, you know, we get involved in certain things that we regret at times, you know what I'm saying, that we wish we never would have took the first hit or whatever, you know? And I'm sure they did. You know, David never approached me about it and said, bro, you need to kick back, you need to do this. Like, he just never did. You know, he never did. You know, but I started, you know, feeling a certain way, bro. Like, it was just me. I know it was me because I was paranoid off the drugs. I felt like they were against me, bro. You know, and
you can hear it in that last album of
oh,
the things
yeah.
you're saying about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you know, you can, you know what's up.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's like, again, there are things that I wish I, you know, would have just kept to myself, man. You know, it didn't need to be on wax. It didn't need to be recorded because, you know, these things last forever, bro. I mean, I'm 44. I'm going to be 44 already. I'm an old man. And I still see some kids on Instagram, bro, that are bumping like the old stuff. And I still have that influence on them. You know, when I'm already going to be a 50-year-old man pretty soon, you know what I'm saying? But yet I still have such a great influence on these young minds. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the third album, like I started, you know, talking about certain things. You know, I felt that I was getting ripped off, you know. And in reality, to be totally honest with you, the way I see it now, with a clear mind and a clear heart, is they just lost the respect for me as an artist, as a person, because I did it to myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, they probably just felt like, you know what, he's not going to know, like, just, you know, maybe they wanted to cut me off, you know, like, he's a lost cause. Maybe they wanted to cut me off. Maybe that was their way of like, you know what, don't call him for nothing no more, don't do this, you know.
Well, I don't think they were trying to cut you off because they were looking for you.
No, I'm saying afterwards, though.
Oh.
Yeah. No, when they were looking for me, it was because, you know, it was during during my prime.
Yeah.
During that prime, you know, where I was a big part of, you know, all the other stuff, you know. It was afterwards, bro, once the money started coming in, where I was like, oh, you know, once I had all my rims, my rides and my chains and all the Rolex, all these things that I had, you know.
Things you wanted, you had it, so you're good.
Yeah, it's like I started spending money. I started getting high on my own supply, things like that, you know what I mean? And it got bad. It got really bad.
You've also been featured in quite a bit of music videos too, right?
Yeah.
Which was your first one?
I was featured in it, but I wasn't rapping in it. It was Handful for the Penitentiary Chances CD and soundtrack. I was just in the background right there with all the guys and stuff. I think that might have been the first time I met Duke and Crooked and all them.
Were you supposed to be part of that song too, or?
No. Oh, actually, that was actually the first time I met a lot of the guys. I met Ace, Mr. Key. Actually, we spent the night at Mr. Key's mom's house that night. So a lot of us were there, bro, and we met up with a lot of the other guys. And
where was that video shot?
Hayward. Yeah, I think it was in Hayward, some parking lot somewhere. Yeah, don't know exactly where, but somewhere in Hayward. Yeah.
And what was the second one?
Semi-automatic round.
That was a classic. A lot of people call it a classic.
Yeah, dude, you know that one. I remember the day we recorded that song. It was actually at Duke's house, or it was either his house or his mom's house, but it was there. And it was after we were filming something. I don't know if it was a movie or one of the other videos or what, but we came to that house. Dub was there. You remember Dub, right? Okay, Dub was there. He had his, I think it was an ADAT tape back then. They weren't CD back then, really. It was ADAT. Put it in, and he played that beat. It came on, right? And I was like, oh, that's dope, dude.
So you approached him to get on it?
Not really. I just started rapping. Bro. I was just like, I got something for that. And I go, bring it back. And he played it, started over. And I started doing it. I was like, dude, let's record it right now. And I remember we went into the garage They had their stuff out there in the living room. The wire went into the garage. I went in there, laid it down, and that was it.
One take?
Yeah, I dubbed it and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I already had it memorized because I remember I had wrote it. You know,
Did you just write random stuff and just see what beat it would go for, or was that what first supposed to be for a different beat, and you just happened to say, "Oh, it'll go good with this one"?
You know, that one right there, yeah, I would do that. But that one right there, I actually wrote because of a conversation me and Drew had. Me and Andrew had a conversation, I remember, and it was because of that conversation that came about, and I started writing it, and it was what it was. That's why I think in the song I say coming through, staying true like Drew. Yeah. That's why, because I mean, I gave him props because, you know, I mean, that was my boy. A lot of people thought we were brothers, bro. Even his kids thought that I was their uncle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they said we looked alike back then. I don't know.
Were those only 2 videos you were featured on, or you did some other ones too?
You know what's funny is that you're probably gonna laugh about this. Nobody knows this. You know the song "Mi Camarada"?
Yeah.
You remember the video?
Yeah.
I was in that video, but you don't see me. I was in the back seat the whole time.
You're recording, or?
No, I wasn't recording. I was just with David right there. I was in the back seat, and eventually I got out. And I was with the rest of the guys while he was driving it. But yeah, I was in there
Sleeping, or?
I think I was, bro. I think I might have had like a toothache or something, bro, or something. But
what was the point of just being there with him?
I was just there. I didn't want to get off. I was like, I don't feel good, bro. But for a moment, I was in the back seat of that car.
Can you like see you if you accidentally move?
Nah, you can't see me. I don't remember who filmed the video, but I remember he was on the passenger side while David was driving, and then I was like, "Let me out right here, bro." But he probably don't even remember. You know, David forgets a lot of stuff. But there's just some things that I won't forget, you know, and that's one of the things I won't forget, that I was in the back seat during that time. And another thing a lot of people don't know too is that when I did the video to Semi-Automatic Round, I had a Whopper in my pocket that I couldn't wait to eat afterwards. Heck yeah. We went to Burger King.
How did it taste afterwards?
And they were like, come on, we got to hurry up. It was smashed, bro. But it was funny because they were all like, we got to hurry up and film before, you know, people come, because we were in the underground parking lot, you know, before cops came or whatever. And I was like, I don't got a chance to eat this, man. You know, so I just stuffed it in my pocket, bro. And after
Didn't
that,
even know grease stains on your khakis?
Nah, they actually didn't, bro. But that's what I did after the video. I was riding with Dino the whole time. I think that same night we filmed the video to Conspiracy Theory. They went on the BART. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was with him the whole time, but that night I took off. When they filmed that video, I actually took off with Andrew. We went back home. He dropped me off Lee Grant on the way to Madera. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah. But, you know.
That's a funny one.
I was kind of a part of those other videos, man. Yeah.
But besides, you have some new ones for your new music now, but
yeah.
I get into that.
Yeah. My wife and I, we got some music videos out there, some anointed music and stuff, you know.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
You know, it's crazy. I want to mention real quick too, is that it's funny that Thump Records was one of the ones that I wanted to be a part of, and it's funny because one of my sons, we call him Thumper, you know, that's his nickname, and so every time, you know, it just always makes me think about that, you know. So I want to give a shout out to my boy.
Part of the legacy of Darkroom is that they were one of the first ones to actually put out movies too, and you were a part of some of those movies, right?
Yeah.
The first one they put out was Penitentiary Chances, but I don't think you were on it. Right?
No,
just the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And you were in a little clip for Veteranos, right? Was that your first one?
I think so. I don't think I was in that one, bro. No? I was there at the park when Jesse Borrego, when they filmed that scene there.
Oh, okay, that's what threw me off.
Yeah, I was there, but I wasn't on camera. I didn't come out on camera, but I was a part of that DVD. Well, not DVD, VHS. I was a part of that because I was at the beginning of the video.
I think you did come out on it.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna go back.
Go ahead, man.
If I find
check it out,
you owe me a Whopper.
Órale. With cheese. But yeah, I think I was the only reason I was a part of that VHS was because I was in the video at the beginning. But as far as the movie, I don't think I was. I really don't think I was. Though I was there the whole time. I mean, I met Jesse Borrego, Crucito from Blood and Blood Out. I met him at Duke's house. You know, real cool guy. You know what I'm saying? I gave him my last
You were
joint.
thinking back. I think, yeah, you said a little bit of profanity in there, and that was it.
Did I?
I think if it's the one I'm thinking,
I don't know, bro.
I gotta go back.
I know I was in Blood and Tears.
Yeah,
I was.
You had a bigger role in that one.
Yeah, I think I played a character named Tony Lee Grant.
Yeah.
And that was kind of corny, but yeah.
Did you want to be? Did you want to be in the movies or?
Nah,
No?
bro. Not really. I mean, I was a rapper, not an actor. You know what I mean? It was just more like.
So they told you, "Hey, you're gonna be in here," or they asked you, "Can you be in it?"
Ah,
They
man.
already wrote the part and told you, "Hey, we're gonna."
They kind of did. They kind of just wrote the part and they said, hey, you know, it was exposure, I guess. You know what I mean? It was cool. But I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it, bro. I wasn't really feeling it. Like,
Why, the storyline or the way it was recorded, or?
just me being on acting, bro, because I was never. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. It was weird, you know?
Have an acting coach.
Nah, I did not grow up on Broadway. You know what I'm saying? On the theater. But I mean, it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was cool afterwards. I met some other good people, you know, doing those movies and stuff.
Then you did Smile Now, Cry Later, which you were one of the main characters on there.
Yeah. Okay. Now with that one, again, I don't know, man. They must have saw something in me that I didn't see, because they did approach me on that one to do the majority. You know, there's a lot of roles in that one. And I was like, okay, let's try it, man. Let's do it, you know? And,
I like that one because if you're into music, you're seeing the whole process of what it takes to.
well, the storyline of that one was more about music.
Yeah.
And it was more, I would say I identified with it. I think that's why I did like it, because it was about Dino helping me out. Like, he was supposed to be my older brother in the movie and stuff. So it was a good storyline, you know, for the most part, you know. I mean, it was fun. I mean, you see a lot of the stuff in there where it's like, oh man, did you notice that? He was wearing a different shirt at that time. You know what I mean? Like little things here and there. And then there was other scenes where, man, I could have said this better. You know, and then you start critiquing yourself, man. You know, and then you want to try and be an actor. Oh, I could have did that better. You know, or I could have said it this way to make it sound more convincing, you know?
When people see you out in public, do you think they recognize you more for your music or from the movies you were in?
The music. I think the music. Maybe the videos. Not so much the movies, bro, but the music videos, you know? I think that's what it could be, that, you know?
So from all the songs that you've done, which one do you think has been the most popular one?
Probably that Semi-Automatic Round. That's
Because it had a music video for it, or why do you think?
probably, yeah. I mean, you said it was catchy, no? I mean, I think it could have been that, too. There's another one that's very popular that I don't remember the name of it, but dude, I'm telling you, people know this one, man, that are not even from here, you know.
Your first solo album?
No, it wasn't even on my solo. It was just a verse, you know.
Oh.
People they pick and choose what they like, you know what I'm saying? You know, so there was one, I think there was, and a lot of people don't even know that it was me probably that did it, you know what I mean? But they just know that song or they know that verse, you know what I mean? But as far as my solo, bro, man, I would have to say, Was It All Just a Dream? That one right there, it was actually
That was
requested.
one of my favorite ones on there.
Was it?
A good one, yeah.
Orale. That one, it was actually requested at a show one time. They had asked if I was going to do it at the show.
Like recently, or?
No. Back in the day. I think it was in Gilroy when they had approached me, because we were supposed to do a show, and I was drinking a lot. So I was supposed to be backstage with everybody, with all the artists. We were there with RBL Posse and 14 Caliber, a lot of these other names, right? And I think Mark from Family Tree was throwing this one. I don't know if you ever met Mark. And he had this thing in Hollister, a record store called Family Tree or something like that, right? And he was putting the show together. And I remember I went with like an entourage, bro. I met Dino and everybody over there. I didn't go with all the guys. We took our own vehicles, and I had a big old entourage, and I was like, hey, bro, because I had told everybody, man, don't even trip on the cover charge, man. I got you, bro. We can get you in for free, you know. And the dude at the door, they didn't want to let us in. And I'm like, well, I'm performing tonight, bro. And then so they called Mark to the door, and I was like, "Hey, bro," I go, "They either come in with me or I don't go on tonight. I'm gonna jam back home with them." And he's like, "Man, bro, you're killing me, A.L.G. You're killing me, bro." He goes, "That's a lot of heads, dog." And I was like, "It is what it is, bro." I mean, and he let him in. He goes, "You owe me big time, bro." He goes, "You need to come and do a autograph signing in my store." I never had the chance to do it. I never went to do it. Because that's when everything started happening where I changed, you know. But it wasn't that I was like messed up. No, I'm not gonna go do it, you know. It wasn't like that, you know. But that night was actually that song was requested. Oh, like I said though, everybody was backstage. I was the only drunk fool that was up in the crowd, bro. I was in the mix with everybody, you know, looking at RBL Posse and all these guys perform. Dude, I was like a fan up there, bro. You know what I'm saying? I did the same thing when I saw Mousy on stage in Lathrop. You know, he had that song, Northside Soldier. And I remember I was up there like, yeah, you know, doing all this and stuff. And I was drunk there too, man, just having a good time. Every show we did, bro, I always had a good time. You know what I'm saying? I was young and loud. You know, I'm real calm now. I'm really calm now. Huh? But yeah, I was one of the young, every time it came to a show.
Which one would you say is one of your favorites that you did?
Was it all just a dream?
That was it.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, it meant a lot to me, bro. That song came together like that too, because David just played the instrumental. He had barely did it. I was like, bro, I already got something to that, you know, because I didn't write those lyrics. You know, those lyrics are 3 different verses, right? Those songs, that whole song I wrote at 3 different times in my life. One of the verses I wrote when I was staying in Colorado, and then I pieced it together throughout the years, you know, or that night, actually, that day.
So you would just write random stuff in a notebook and then put it all together later?
Yeah, it wasn't like I sat down and I'm going to write a song called Was It All Just a Dream? No, it wasn't like that at all. I pieced it together like a puzzle, and what you hear is what came out of it, you know what I'm saying? So, but that song was one of my favorites because I talk about my dad in there and talk about growing up, you know, things like that.
Stuff off your chest.
Got stuff off my chest, yeah. A lot of my stuff was like that, bro. A lot of my stuff was like, if you didn't hear me talking mess about people, you know, just being rowdy on the mic or whatever, a lot of my stuff was, you know,
heartfelt. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's a lot of my solo stuff was like that. When I'd be talking loud or whatever would be on features, bro. Or I'd just be like, I don't care what I'm going to say. You know, I'm going to do this and whatever. You know, those are the things I wish I would have just been like.
So you'd put the craziest things you could say on 16 bars. And
yeah, it was just like whatever. You know what I mean? It would just be like, I'm going to write a verse for this. And just because most of the time it was written on the spot. Those were. A lot of the features were just written on the spot. You know, all the other stuff, all my solo stuff was just more, you know, like I said, stuff I did throughout on my own throughout the years and stuff where I'd piece them together. And don't get me wrong, some songs I would write, you know, but a majority of them, yeah, you know.
Speaking of production, I know you said Sir Dino had done the production for It Was All Just a Dream. Who did most of your production for your early music?
So for that album, it was David.
The whole thing?
No. I got some beats from Dub. I did a couple of them on there. Can't Stop What You Can't See. I think I did that one. I made that beat. Brown Horse. That one, MT did that one. DJ MT did that one for me.
Rest in peace to DJ MT.
Yes,
just
sir.
Passed away maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
Could you give us a memory about DJ MT?
Oh, man. He's the funniest dude you'll ever meet. You think I'm funny? You think I'm funny? MT, bro, he was a character, bro. I mean, the way you would see him on you know, the album covers and stuff, looking intimidating and stuff, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, he was, you know, but
for his,
yeah, he was down, bro. But he's the funniest cat you'll ever meet, bro. I mean, this dude had such a good sense of humor. He always made me laugh, you know what I mean? And he was like, every time I go to his house, bro, I mean, first thing we do is, you know, spark up a leño or something, you know what I mean? And just laugh, bro. You know what I mean? And he would always give me rides back, you know, to Patterson and stuff. He dropped me off, but we'd work on production. As a matter of fact, I felt honored that he put me on his song, One Bullet for You. And I was the first rapper on that song for the self-titled album. I was like, dude, really? That's what's up, bro. Like, I mean, that dude had a connection, man. We lost, touch with each other
over the years,
but during that time, bro, we had such an awesome connection, man, me and him. He was a real good man, and it was through him, also too, I met Jesse and Angel and all the other cats. My brother Zoe, I met brother Zoe, even Rudy, the guitar player.
Rudy
Mesa, I met him. A lot of the guys from Southside Tracy, bro.
Did you learn any production from him?
Oh yeah, I learned a lot from MT, bro. I mean, he wasn't just a DJ, bro. But the reason why I loved his stuff, bro, is because, he always did the samples. He always did the remakes.
It was more funky.
Yeah, he was that funky, the Brown Buffalo. He called himself, right? I think it was Brown Buffalo. MT, the Mexican terrorist. But his production, I always loved it, bro. Because I noticed on every other album, whether it was Mr. Key or the ITPG album or Eclipse's album, any album that came out, I noticed that anything that had a sample on it, it was MT was on it, and he was doing the production. So I was like, yeah, he did the Brown Horse for me.
You caught on to that. Yeah.
I caught on to that. I was like, that's the dude to go to right there. That's why when I first met him, going to his house, we sat down and we brainstormed, and then eventually I ended up going back to record for his album. I think I got on that album twice.
I think Brown Horse is one of your most popular songs too.
Is it?
People tell me.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude.
Maybe it was a beat,
Maybe. I've always wanted to do something with that beat right there. I love that song, the original song, But that's cool. I never knew that. It's pretty cool. But as far as production goes too, I used to get beats from a lot of guys like Conflict I mentioned earlier. He did a lot of production throughout the years for me. I actually helped David do the beat to the Right to Remain Violent song. I think I did the drum track for that, and he did like the piano and everything, or whatever else was on there. I think I would get some stuff from Dub. I think maybe Duke and Crooked. I maybe got a beat from them. Not a lot, but for the most part, I always tried making beats myself.
At what point did you start to kind of dabble into making your own beats?
I bought Never's beat machine, bro. I bought that and I started messing with them.
What time period was that?
Gosh, I don't remember. I really don't remember, bro. He just wanted to sell it when he upgraded to the keyboard, the workstation he got. I think that album that he did with the workstation. So if you remember what time frame The Valley of Death came out, it was during that time. Yeah, because that whole album there was done with that workstation.
Late 90s?
I think so.
98 maybe?
Yeah, because if you notice the next episode, that one was done with the beat machine that I bought off of Never. So if you heard like a lot of similar sounds on some of the beats I did from the next episode, it was because of that reason,
Yeah, that one had a unique sound. I really liked it.
Yeah, a lot of the sounds that Never made them on that beat machine. I think it was called the Yamaha RY30. I would love to have one again if you could still find them like on eBay or something. But he made a lot of those sounds,
I preferred the ones from that one and Up in Smoke better.
The sounds?
The sounds compared to like
Valley of
Death. Yeah, it was a lot different. You can tell the difference, and now it makes sense that he upgraded.
Yeah, like even the Dirty Dozen had a lot of more samples because that's when he got his sampler. I forgot what it was called, but that he started sampling everything, man. Like More Bounce and Lowrider, all these different jams. You know what I'm saying? And we just got happy with it, bro. Started sampling everything and just doing. I mean, shoot, we even did Ozzy Osbourne songs, Iron Man, and things like that. We sample everything, bro. I mean, I would, for my solos, I sampled like songs from Megadeth and redid songs from Slayer and things like that, like heavy metal music. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but like I took stuff from Metallica, and redid them. You know what I'm saying? I would take samples and loop them, So that's what I would do. That's the way I would sample stuff. But I don't know if you knew, but I even did the production to that song from Minority Militia called To the Boys of My Hood. The Boys of My Hood.
Oh, yeah.
I did that beat on the little drum machine, bro. That was probably one of my favorite ones. To be honest, I mean, that's probably not a lot of people's favorites, bro, but that was one of my favorites because that was all me. You know, I redid the lyrics. You know, I remember recording that in at Vic's house in the Lowdown studio. And it was funny, now that I remember, that was from Minority Militia, right? They put it on that album, part 2, The People's Army. And when David heard it, Sir Dino, he was all like, how come you didn't put that song on our stuff? And I was like, I don't know. You know, but that was, he liked that song too. That he
didn't hear it until that point.
Yeah, because he didn't know I was like actually doing stuff like that, you know, for Lowdown too, you know, at the time, you know.
What about now? Do you still mess with your own production, or you just buy your own beats?
I got to purchase some, bro, because I don't have nothing to make beats on, you know. I want to get the workstation and stuff. I mean, I got the itchy fingers to do them. I mean, because like I said earlier, I'm a drummer, you know, so I'm always, you know, banging on the floor or doing something, making a beat, you know, and, you know, so if I had the equipment to do it, I would most likely want to do it. Like,
just at the lack of equipment.
Yeah, lack of equipment. One thing I do want to do, to be honest, I mean, I've mentioned it before about, you know, not rapping anymore and stuff, because I haven't rapped in a while. I haven't produced or recorded any new music in a while. I want to produce my wife's album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but she's lagging. You know what I mean? You know, she wants to do the duo thing still, you know, A.L.G and Sil, but I'm like,
she needs to do
it's your time to shine, girl. She has a lot of talent and stuff, and she's gifted, you know, and
she really is. Yeah.
And I want to produce her album. I'm gonna be greedy and be stingy. I want to do the production for her, at least for her first one. You know what I'm saying? You know, because she's got what it takes to do it. You know, everybody says, you know, David will tell you to this day. He goes, "I'm sorry, brother." He goes,
"She outshines you.
She outshines you. You rap good, but she makes you better," which is true. It's true. I mean, I've had females on my songs before back in the day, and
not even close.
Not even close, bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no disrespect to anybody that was on there, man, but I mean, my wife's a singer, bro. You know, I met her in church, you know, in the choir, and she's got some vocals, man. You know what I'm saying? She got that unique voice too. You can hear it from miles away. You know, you can recognize it when you hear it, you know.
So how many other shows have you done back then?
Not too much. There was a couple more. There was one in San Jose. We did one in San Jose. That one was crazy. I'll never forget that.
What happened there?
Oh, man. It was a riot. I'll just say that. There was a riot out front. It was packed, bro.
Before or after you performed?
After. I was drunk, you know, during that time. And I just remember me and, not Scarface, but Jesse, Angel's brother Jesse. We were at the bar the whole night, just taking shots, man. You know, and it was time for me to go up on the stage, bro. And
you were still drunk from the night before? Or
yeah, bro. It was crazy. But we were out there. The whole club was packed. I think it was called the Crocodile Club or something like that. I can't remember, bro, but it was so packed. We had people outside on the street, bro. I mean, from the lip of the stage, bro, from the beginning of the stage all the way out, both sections, people were out in the streets, bro. It was crazy.
Sold out show?
Sold out show. It was a Lowdown show. It wasn't even a Darkroom show, bro. It was a Lowdown show.
How many people do you estimate?
God, I don't know. It was I don't know how. I can't even remember how big it was. A pretty good size, bro. But it was. I mean, dude. I mean, limos. I remember limos showed up, you know, in the front of the street, and then afterwards, when like a riot broke out, it was crazy. Those limos. Next thing you know, they were gone, and there were cop cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy, bro. It was. I don't know how many cop cars were out there, but you know, we were just. I was so drunk, I didn't know what was going on. I walked out there, I was like, oh, shoot, what the heck? And I just remember people shouting out their hoods and stuff like that, you know, and from those areas, you know. It got kind of crazy afterwards, you know. But
where was this at? Sacramento, you said?
San Jose.
Oh, San Jose.
It was in San Jose. But it was fun. I had a great time, you know. It was fun. That was the first time I met some of the other guys that I really didn't know. One of my friends, Nate, he used to be known as Nasty Nate back in the day. He's a Christian rapper now, but that was the first time I met him at that night. I just remember turning and seeing this white boy right there, and I was like, "Who's this white boy?" And it was Nate, man.
That's what caught your attention?
It caught my attention. I was like, man, he goes by Illuminating. And I was like, he is illuminating on me, man. No, but I turned and I saw this dude, but he was rapping like Mr. Key was always one of my favorite rappers. He was like, he sounded like that. And I was like, dang, this boy got fire. He can get down, you know what I mean? And that's what caught my attention from him back then, But I met a lot of the dudes there. Rest in peace to Speedy Lokes too, man. That boy right there, man, that dude. Every time, him, Bugsy, and there was another one that was always with them. Can't remember his name right now, bro, but like those guys, bro, were always around. This was, I think, before Stars the Limit came out.
They were there as fans, or they were trying to get...
Well, because Bugsy was always around Duke and Crooked. Like, I don't know if he grew up with them or what, but he was always there, and through Bugsy, I met Speedy, but they were always like asking me like, man, when are you going to come down to the studio and record, man? We need to jump on a track. And yeah, bro, yeah. And I never got the opportunity to do it. Never had the chance to do it, man. I kept on just kind of like, yeah, bro, yeah. We always, it's like one of those things like this, we'll talk about it. And we never did it. I talked to some guys one time on the phone from Dakota. I don't know who it was, to be honest. I can't remember. I know there's some rappers out there and it could have been them, the ones that are doing music now. But I can't say it was them, but I know they would call me. It might have been Speedy and Bugsy still, but I know there was some other guys that would get on the phone that I would talk to and stuff, and they were always talking about getting together and doing music. I just never was able to. I never did,
Tito B and Little Connor were more popular ones out there. Maybe it was them.
Yeah, well, back at that time, I don't know how young they were, I mean, I don't know what their age is now, but, I don't remember ever meeting them, to be honest. I don't think they were that young, because I think they might have did some stuff with Lowdown about the time that I wasn't recording with Lowdown anymore. So I don't think they were that young. But yeah, those guys, yeah, I would always see those guys at the shows, man. Speedy and Bugsy, and cool guys, man. They were really cool guys.
But you never actually recorded anything with them?
No. But I mean, every time, like I said, we were at the same place at the same time. It was nothing but love, you know what I mean? They always went out of their way to approach me, and I always felt that was cool, that they always
show that respect,
that love, and come and talk to me, and stuff like that. I haven't seen Bugsy or talked to him in years, but I just remember them being real cool people,
Did your music ever take you traveling out of state, or was it all local?
All local.
You never did any shows out of state?
Nah, I mean, I probably would have had the opportunity to go out there to Texas when the guys went out there, but I never did because of stuff that I was into, but that probably would have been the only thing I probably would have done if I would have went.
They were touring like in the southwestern states, weren't they? And didn't they, like, Darkroom go to Florida? And
I don't remember.
I got a VHS where I think they're out there.
I remember seeing when they were in Florida, they were at the NASA thing. Yeah. I think I seen it on one of the documentaries. But as far as touring, I don't know if they were touring, like doing music and stuff,
Maybe they were just doing meet and greets. I thought they were doing like shows while they were there.
It might have been meet and greets and stuff. Yeah, because I mean, I don't really. We didn't do a lot of shows, bro. Most of the shows I did, though, the few shows that I did was with Lowdown. It wasn't so much with Darkroom. It was more Lowdown.
Do you ever see any footage out there of those shows, or just whoever has it has it?
Nah. I remember I actually had the VHS of that show in San Jose, bro. But I don't know what happened to it. But as far as footage, no, man, I don't see none of the shows. I mean, only pictures I see are on the Darkroom fan page, you know what I mean? That's about it. Those bring back memories.
My boy George can probably get a hold of it.
Yeah. Those are the ones. I mean, he posts his pictures that I was like, dude, that was me. Like I didn't even remember being there or things like that at times. You know what I mean? But
To the Darkroom fan page.
yeah, man.
If you haven't checked it out, check it out.
Yes, sir. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, as far as shows go, yeah, I didn't really do too much.
You're also featured in a few magazines, right? You came out on Murder Dog, L-Tip, and you were telling me that you came out on a few advertisements for Lowrider magazine too.
Yeah. They advertised for. I think I don't know which one it was, what album it was for Lowdown. I think Dog Day was the one that did that though, because I think Lowdown was still with Dog Day after Darkroom left. He ended up never ended up signing. So I think that first album, if it was just one album, it was that one they were promoting. I think, as a matter of fact, I think it was the cover of Ill-Tip magazine that they put there. I want to say, I'm not sure, man, but yeah, Ill-Tip was one. I remember that day when we took that photo.
Where was that one taken?
In Merced at the Applegate Park, I think.
Bunch of people on that cover.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was there at the theater part of the park in Merced. And
so did they approach Never, or do you know what happened?
I don't know. I really don't know.
They just called you to come show up?
Yeah, never just told me. He goes, hey, they're gonna do a photo shoot. I was like, cool. Guinness Book of World that's hard to say, man. Guinness Book of World Records. I think we still hold that slot.
I don't think anybody's gonna take it anytime soon.
I don't think so either, man. I didn't show up for that one either. I wasn't on that photo. Everybody was there. It was in the newspaper and everything. I don't know if there's names there, but my name should be there. But if it's not, it's cool. But I was a part of that. But I just wasn't there for the photo shoot, for that day.
For those that don't know, could you explain what Minority Militia was?
It was a group. It was not a compilation. I remember never saying that it was not a compilation album. Yeah, let's be specific. It was a group. It was the world's largest rap group with producers and artists. And that's why we hold that slot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Man, that's a tongue twister right there, man. But yeah, we still hold that, man.
Never still has that plaque, and his interview, you can see it if you guys check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, I was fortunate to be a part of that. That was fun recording those things. I mean, that was the time I was able to get on to do a song with Woody. Me, Woody, and Wino did County Ways. We did that song, County Ways. And yeah, that was the first and only time I met Woody. I actually have a picture with him.
You guys met just for that song, and that was it?
Yeah, he came.
You guys didn't have like a friendship?
No. I mean, he was cool. He was a cool dude, man. But he talked more with Never that day, because they were the producers. They were he was the head dude of his label, Woody was, right? And then Never being the head honcho of Lowtown Records, right? So I kind of just, let them work out their business thing, do their thing. It was cool to meet him, though. I remember him having his dog with him, the one that was on his covers and stuff.
He took that dog everywhere?
Oh, yeah. I'm assuming he did.
I would see him on the covers and stuff.
Yeah, he had his pit with him. He had that Skylark. He pulled up in the Skylark. He had a couple of his boys with him, too. I don't know if it was Louie Lou or who it was, but he had a few boys with him. And yeah, it was there at the Lowtown studio where we recorded, man. And that stuff was written on the spot, too, And I didn't really care for my verse. I mean, I felt like I could have did better, but
you think it's because you were under pressure? And you
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I mean, Woody tore it up. I mean, that dude always spit fire, man, and he tore it up, man. That's why I was like, oh man, like to be on the same track with this dude right here, it was like, man, but yeah, it was cool meeting him. I can say that I had the chance to meet him.
You were actually on the cover of Murder Dog too, right? Yeah,
we were. I don't know the year when that happened. I just remember where it was. It was in San Francisco. Me, Duke, Dino, and Crooked went. I was actually like really surprised, bro, that they asked me to go, because out of Darkroom at that time, I mean, the main guys was, Duke, Crooked, and Dino. You know, Dino was all the movies, you know, and stuff. He was like the main character in all the movies, right? And you know, of course, a lot of people don't know, but Dino was never like a CEO of Darkroom. He was never the main. It wasn't his label, really.
I always thought he was, because to me he was like the face of Darkroom.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was the face of it, right? And I was under the same impression, but he wasn't. The guys behind it, and still to this day, is the Quitos brothers, Duke and Crooked.
You would have thought they would have had Crooked instead of you on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, Crooked was there. He was on the inside.
Oh.
You know, when they did the
So the
story.
magazine's the one that chose who they wanted on the cover. Then they just took a bunch of random pictures.
Yeah, they took a bunch of random pictures, and when they put that one up there, I remember David calling me and telling me like, "Dude, you're on the cover." I was like, "What?" Like, no way. And I was like, "That's cool." I didn't really know how big that magazine was, and they were trying to explain to me like, "Dude, this is Murder Dog magazine. Do you know who's on these covers? You know, they got like Snoop Dogg and you know all these big names, you know, and they asked us to do it, and you're on it." I was like, "Okay, that's pretty cool." You know, and now I show people now, like, "Yeah, bro, check this out." You know, like, look at T.I.'s been on here. You know, all these big names, bro. 50 Cent. What are those other groups? Like Cash Money Millionaires. All these big names. You know?
Do you actually have any copies of those magazines?
I
or no?
don't.
No.
I don't know what happened to it. I had one, and
It's a crazy cover.
Oh,
When you look at the cover.
oh, my eyes looked crazy.
No.
I think I was on drugs or something during that time. Yeah, you could just see the life.
I mean,
I was lifeless, man.
These people are not somebody to be played with.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could just see the pain in my eyes, bro. You could see the darkness, the emptiness, you know what I mean? Because you notice, if you look at that, I just noticed this when I saw it on your Facebook page. I was looking at it, right? And I was like, I'm the only one without sunglasses. You can actually see my soul through those eyes, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm like letting people see instead of covering up with sunglasses.
That,
yeah, that's the way I see it now. Like, you know, because David had on his sunglasses and Duke had on sunglasses. You know, they're both holding the big guns. They gave me the little gun. They gave me the little cuete.
and you can't even see it because the words are in the way.
Yeah, you can't even see it, bro. For all they know, I had a water gun. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it was cool though. You know, and then wearing that hat was just, it wasn't like planned, like, oh, I'm going to wear it. No, it was just a hat that I had on that day. And it came about, you know what I mean? It came out what it was, you know?
Do you actually remember what was in the actual magazine, what they printed?
No, I don't. I don't think I ever read the story, bro, to be honest with you, man. I was just like, oh, cool, I'm on the front, you know?
So at one point in your life, you're doing all these crazy music, you're doing movies, you're in magazines, but at that point, there's kind of a downfall in your life, getting involved with drugs, and you end up going to jail. What was that time like in your life?
Dark. That was a real dark room right there, bro. You know, I think I named a song like this, but I felt like a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat that wasn't there. I was lost, you know. But because I was involved in these drugs and stuff, you know, you become another person, bro. You become like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing. And that's one thing where I say, like, when I had that downfall from the group, you know, a lot of people may, you know, assume things like, oh, well, he left or they kicked him out or things like that. It was just, I distanced myself, bro, because I let other things get in the way, you know. Being hooked on meth, you know, and then doing heroin from time to time and coke and stuff like that, like it messes with you, you know what I'm saying?
It was just all bad.
It was all bad. You know, I became a person that I hated, bro, and the person that people were beginning to hate, you know, my family especially, you know, and then like even fans, bro, for the most part, when they would meet me, you know, they'd be like, oh, this ain't the dude that I thought.
They could tell.
Yeah. You know, they can just tell. I'm like, it's like, man, this is a junkie, you know? I mean, it's funny because, like, I can tell you, like, young Ant, he was part of Darkroom too. My brother Anthony, my brother in the Lord Anthony, bro, he's always been a good friend of mine too. And he grew up in Hayward as well. I don't know if you remember young Ant.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, okay. Well, one time he ran into me at the flea market in Merced because I was selling CDs. It was actually that one, I See Therefore I Say. It was, so I was selling them there, and he recognized my voice. He heard the voice, right? And he turns around. He was with his wife, and he comes up to me, and he starts talking to me and stuff, and this and that. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I had remembered him, right? But he didn't recognize me because I was so skinny, so, like, sucked up, I looked like a walking dead, like a zombie, and it was funny because I found out years later that his wife had told him that day, that's A.L.G right there, that's him, dang, he looks bad. And they were like, yeah. So fast forwarding, I know we haven't talked about this yet, but the next time he had saw me, it was at the parking lot at Food for Less in Merced. And I was giving a CD, a Christian CD, to some kid that was selling oranges or tamales or something like that in the parking lot, right? And I gave him the CD, and young Ant and his wife were coming out of Food for Less, and they heard my voice.
Talking to that kid?
Talking to that kid. And they go, dude, I know that voice. And they came, and then they saw me, and they were like, dude, this is not the same person that we saw a few years back, And they heard me basically preaching the gospel to this kid, I wasn't even talking the same, not just the sound of the voice, but I wasn't talking the same, or walking the same or looking the same, you know what I'm saying? And they were just like...
Complete different person.
Different person. I want to say before that time, though, the last time I had seen Young Yan and actually like hung out with him was we were recording for NKA Part 2. Going back to that real quick, there was going to be an NKA Part 2, but that's when I had my transformation, So all the songs that had been recorded for that album or for any other projects got deleted. I deleted them all, I couldn't put it out, because I wasn't that person anymore. The
content what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wasn't that person anymore. I don't want to contradict myself. I've always kept it real in the past. I wasn't about to, fake the funk in the future. You know what I'm saying? I was going to keep it real. That's one thing that DJ MT had told me about a month before he passed away. We had a conversation on FaceTime, and he told me that I've always been one of the real ones. He's always loved and respected me because I've always been one of the real ones. And for that to come from him, somebody that I looked up to all the time in the beginning of this, it meant a lot to me, bro. And I didn't even know, like, man, this dude's, you never really know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know that a month later he was going to pass. He was telling me about his condition and things that he had been battling with. But anyways,
but you just never know.
Yeah, you just never know. But yeah, with the music, I mean, I got to keep it real, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you will get called out. They will. It's like somebody catching your bluff. You know what I'm saying? There's no point on lying because it's always going to come out. The truth will always, come out.
So at one point, you also did some jail time, right?
Yeah.
And is that when you finally realized that you had to change your ways?
It helped. I wouldn't say that that's what changed my mind about changing my ways and stuff, or finally did it. It just, I started noticing the signs more. When I was incarcerated, I felt like this weird feeling inside me, like this conviction. But at the time, I didn't know it was conviction, It was just more like, man, I don't feel right, Because I remember when I was in there.
So your conscience was just kind of getting
to you. There you go, yeah. Some guys had recognized me in there, right? And they're like, oh, bro. They actually, now that I think about it, they told me about the Brown Horse. Like, can you rap that song? Or was it all just a dream? And so I remember I started rapping. We were in the bathroom because it was a large restroom. We were in there and smoking a cigarette. And we were all standing there, and I started rapping, and I was like, when I was saying these words, it didn't feel right. I was like, man, what's happening to me, man? Like, why doesn't it feel right? Before I had no problem cussing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I used to put cuss words to fill in blanks, you know what I mean? Just because. And at this time, it was just like, oh man, I don't know. I couldn't. I was confused, bro. I didn't know what was happening to me. You know, it wasn't like it just happened overnight like that. You know what I'm saying? I was fighting the case. You know, they were trying to give me 4 years. I ended up getting sentenced 4 months only, which was a blessing. But out of those 4 months, they released me at 2.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was all God, bro, because just the way it happened, bro. Like it was just my whole thing, bro, was trying to get my kids, bro. That's what changed my life, was my kids. You know, because I lost something that was mine, that no one should have ever been able to take from me. But I basically was giving them away in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Because of the lifestyle and the drugs, you know, that I was a part of. You know, my kids, they mean everything to me. You know, at the time, my oldest son was only 6 years old. Or no, he was 5 years old when all that happened. He became 6. I actually got out the day before his 6th birthday. And that was a surprise right there. But, you know, like I said, my kids, they mean everything to me. He was 6 years old. He's 23 now. You know, my other older son, he was 3 years old. He's 19 now. You know, and my wife, basically, you know, she's the one that raised them, you know, because my wife and I, when we got married, after I had got out of jail, you know, they would come and stay with us and stuff. And she, I don't want to say she helped me raise them. I kind of helped her raise them, you know, because she was kind of helping me in my walk as well, bro. Because, I mean, I was just a thug from the street, bro. Like, I had no, like, my manners, my way of life, my structure, everything I had, bro, it was just out of whack, bro, because the drugs distorted that. You know, it distorted my whole life, bro. It destroyed my life. It did, you know. And if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for me meeting my wife, you know, I don't know where I'd be today, bro. I'd either.
So at what point did you actually have a connection with God?
It was, man, you know what's crazy, bro, is that I always tried, bro, to
You think the connection was always there? You just would kind of push it away?
Bro, I was the type of guy that, like, as a kid, I wanted to be an altar boy in the Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up Catholic, you know. I wanted to be an altar boy, man, believe it or not. I wanted to be the one that rang the bells. I wanted to be the one that gave the padre his thing, but I was never too good, you know. They would always, like, oh, no, you know. Eres malo and this and that, you know what I mean? Quítate pa allá, you know what I mean? Like, it was always, I was never good enough. I never felt good enough, worthy. I never felt worthy, you know? And, but there was always something in me, bro, because not growing up with my dad, I wanted to seek a father, you know?
Remember you were talking about your second cover earlier where you said it's all red, but you had the cross.
Yeah.
Right there.
I had some kind of, you know, trust, you know, in something. You know, I knew there was a God. Did I have a relationship with him? No. I didn't know how to have one. I think that's why any of my past relationships never worked, you know, because I didn't know how to have a relationship. I had to learn how to have a true relationship with Jesus first before I can have one, you know, in a marriage, you know, or something, you know, because like I said, the Bible says that, you know, God is love. And I didn't know what love was until I knew who God was. You know what I'm saying? And what is love? Love is patient. Love is kind. And it goes on. You know, and I had none of that. I wasn't patient. I wasn't a kind person. You know.
You're the opposite.
I was the opposite of that, you know. And then the kid, again, growing up, how I grew up, not having my dad in my life and having my stepdad there. I didn't talk about this earlier, but having my stepdad there, being thrown out of my house at the age of, I think 12 or 13, you know, me and him got into it really bad, and he was going to leave to Mexico, and I told him not to go after I, threatened him and stuff like that and pulled a knife out and all that stuff. Like, I told him not to go. I said, you stay here and be a man and raise my little brother and my sister. They're not going to grow up the way I did. I'll leave. And I left and never turned back. I never went back home after that, and my grandparents, I lived with them. They couldn't raise me, bro. They were old already, bro. I never listened to them. My tío was always asleep in the room. He just work, come home and sleep. Work, come home and sleep. So I was basically raising myself, I would get my consejos from like the tecatos at the park, after I would take them and, score their hair on.
What kind of things, what do they tell you? Whatever was convenient for them?
Hey, check it out, mijo. You don't want to be like me when you grow older, eh? You know what I'm saying? Things like,
But they would tell you. Like,
yeah, they would take the time. I mean, those are the ones that I would really, I was around, you know what I'm saying? Like, make sure you do good in school. And I'm like, yeah. Like, how was I going to take advice from somebody? You know what I'm saying? They weren't good influences, my thing was like, I mean, I kind of grew, I was on that path though, you know what I'm saying? I was on that path because there was times I was sleeping in my car if I would sleep, you know what I mean? But I would stay out of my car. Times I wouldn't come home, and this and that. And, that's what I'm saying. I would go ghost. Nobody knew where I was at, Enough was enough, One of the hardest things, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. One of the hardest things for me to change my life around was the music, was the fans.
letting it all go?
Yeah. What are they going to think of me? What are they going to say about me?
Instead of thinking what you think about yourself, you were worried about
worried about other people. I was worried about what other people thought of me, bro. What about it? If I leave the group, because another thing, real quick, a lot of people don't know this, is that I actually, no, not me, Julio, what's his name? Julio from Black and Brown Entertainment, Gold Toes, Julio, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he reached out to me one time. I talked to him on the phone. This was during the time that Key had 14 Karat Dreams out. And I had talked to him, and I had told him that, I wasn't a part of Darkroom anymore. That's when I put that one album out. So he was talking to me about, possibly signing
Going to
with
that
Black and Brown. A lot of people don't know that, I never shared that, And but all that happened with me, so I never followed up on it. I never went. As a matter of fact, there was a show, speaking of shows earlier, there was a show that I was supposed to do either in Hollister, Morgan Hill, somewhere out in that area, with Too Short and some other Bay Area rappers. I got invited to go do it, and I never went.
Because of your situation.
Because of my situation. It was funny, bro, because it seemed like everything was starting to come when
it was laid out for you.
Yeah, like everything was starting to come when I was on that verge of making a decision. What do I want to do with my life from here on out? Do I want to continue the same path, or do I want to just change it all? Do I want a new life? And I chose the new life, bro. Even if it meant
was kind of everything that you wanted, it was kind of getting pushed towards you.
It started coming, bro. Like, because I knew about Gold Toes. I knew what he was doing. I saw everything that was happening, putting out like these compilations and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the opportunity. Maybe this is the chance to become, somebody. And this is a second chance, that I'm going to get to do, because I already messed up the darkroom thing, being on drugs. Maybe this is an opportunity now to make things right, and continue to give what the fans want, because also too, bro, like I've always been the type, I never realized how many fans I had, bro. I to this day, it's still kind of
from all over. It's not even just local.
Yeah. I get messages from people. There's a real good brother, man, and shout out to him. Out here in Germany, or not Germany, and Germany too. A brother. Oh man, that's crazy. I'll share that story. But there's another guy from the what's that country in New England, or the United Kingdom, somewhere out here, England or somewhere out there, man. He's a real good guy, and he talks to me a lot. But there was a guy that came from Germany that actually came into the barbershop one time here in Modesto when I was cutting here in Modesto. A fan. An older gentleman. He's an older guy. He's a big-time collector. But it just tripped me out that he came. I thought it was a dude, bro, that was coming in for a cut. I'm sitting there because it was kind of slow in the shop. He comes up and he's
So he didn't even introduce himself until it was his turn to
what?
to get his haircut.
Well, no, he didn't come in for a haircut. He didn't come in. He just, we saw him, like, we're all, it wasn't a busy day. We're there in the shop. And I'm sitting there on the couch on my phone, and we see this car pull up, and I was gonna take a walk in. I thought it was a walk in, right? Dude comes up and starts coming in, comes straight to me, and he says, he has this real heavy German accent, right? And I'm expecting to hear him say, "I'm in town. I need a haircut. I'm flying back to Germany." And no, I hear him say this. I hear him say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm looking for A.L.G." And I was like, huh?
Threw you off.
Yeah, I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I go, I'm him. And he's like, I'm a huge fan. I've been collecting, CDs for a long time. And as a matter of fact, and I felt bad afterwards, bro, because I went to my messenger on Facebook and I seen he tried reaching out to me a bunch of times, bro, and I never responded to him because I didn't know it was real.
You thought it was fake.
I thought it was like a spam or some kind of thing. I didn't know what to think, right? And
because it was like from a foreign country.
From a foreign country, right? Because he would always say, greetings, or much love from Germany and respect from Germany. And I was like, okay, this probably ain't real. But that's what I'm saying, like, I didn't know that I had fans out there, bro, in Germany and, the UK and Japan and things like that. I mean, I was a kid from Lee Graham, from a small town. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And again, even till now, that's why, like, when you said you want to do this interview, I was like, okay, let's do the interview. I'm really a nobody, man. I'm just.
But you are.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for that, man. I mean, I just always did the music because I love to do it. I never thought that it would become more than what it was or what it is, or.